Hi there, it's Krista, and here is my next episode of Coffee with Coaches. If anyone's been following me, I am doing a whole video series, and I have handpicked the best coaches out there. So you can trust that I'm not just taking any people that haven't been vetted and are the top of the line coaches. So today I'm pleased to have with me Zeta Yarwood. And Zeta, you are based in the United Emirates, is that right?
Yeah, in Dubai. Been here, I think this is my 12th year.
Wow, wow. Well, thank you for coming on my show today. And so Zeta, you are an executive career coach, is that correct? Executive career and life coach.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. So would you just tell me briefly, what types of clients do you work with? I mean, are you working, when you say executive career coach, we're assuming that you're not working with people who are right at the beginning of their career trying to figure out what they're doing. These are people who are already doing a lot, right?
Yeah.
Executive.
Yeah, so generally speaking, the clients that I work with are somewhere between the age range of about 35 to 55. And they sort of come to me either because they're unfulfilled in their career and they are looking for that next step. Or I have the people who are, they enjoy their career, but they want to be even more successful than what they are already. And they're aware that there is something that's either missing, or they're holding themselves back in some way. Or they just simply want to look at, capitalizing on what they've got and just, again, being even more successful. So it tends to be people from about sort of 35 years up.
Wonderful. And so when someone comes to you, how do you really evaluate if they're coachable? I mean, that's a question that some people have asked me, like, Krista, but am I coachable? I'm a stubborn person, or I have a lot of set ways, and especially, no offense, but after that age range, right? The older we get, the less malleable we may be. So if someone comes to you, how quickly do you know if they would be a good fit for you, or if they, would be coachable?
There's a couple of hints and clues that you kind of get throughout the conversation, and one of them is always the but. So as you're having that conversation with them, they'll say yes, but, yes, but, yes, but, yes, but, and you know that that kind of mindset is going to be quite challenging from a coaching perspective. Also, the question of, what are you willing to do to get what it is that you want is always a good one. I don't know why, but I've been quite lucky with the clients that I've had. I genuinely get some really great clients, very action focused, very results orientated, and they're very, very excited by the coaching process. So I've never really had an issue with whether or not someone is coachable. I think what I'm getting better at is understanding whether or not I'm the coach that they need. So for example, if someone comes to me and they're in really, really deep emotional pain, my first reaction is I need to send them to this other coach. So I have a list of about 5 other coaches or therapists that I refer people to. So, if I sort of say, right, well, they're in extreme stress right now, I have to say, I'm probably not qualified to deal with that. So I need to send them to a therapist. So I'll send them to Helen, or I need to send them to this person, etc. If they're having a relationship issue, I've got a relationship coach and I'll refer them to that. If someone's looking for online personal branding, I've got someone for that. So public speaking. So, really it's, I think the issue that I have more than are they coachable is, am I actually the right coach for them? And it's taking ownership of, actually, no, I'm not, and referring them to someone else.
That's wonderful. I think having partnerships with other coaches and knowing when to say no, that this isn't the right fit is very important. That brings me to another question, is about measurable progress. So, with a personal trainer, a coach, a health coach, we can clearly see weight loss, toning, abs. With a mindset coach, a life coach, it's a little bit different. So Can you walk me through some of the ways that a person would know they're making progress? I mean, is it like a 360-degree transformation, or are there gradual things that they notice in themselves? Like, what should a person be looking for?
It depends on what they're coming to me for. If it's executive coaching, I normally would recommend a 360 to be brought into the process. So I'm Dr. Marshall Goldsmith qualified, and his process is stakeholder-centered coaching, which simply means inviting the stakeholders to come in and help measure the progress that's being made. So at the end of every month, the executive that's being coached would go to the stakeholders, agree on the behaviors that need to be changed, get their suggestions on what behaviors to change and how to change them, etc. And then check in with them every 2 weeks or every month to say, how am I doing? What am I doing really well? What could I do even better? And what suggestions do you have for me? If someone was coming to me as an individual and there were no other stakeholders involved, we measure their success based on the actions that they take. So, someone would say to me, what if I measure my success on the number of interviews that I get? For me, that's quite a dangerous measurement tool, because how many interviews you get is not 100% within your control. Exactly. And therefore, if you're not getting in interviews, it just means you're potentially jeopardizing your confidence, because you might interpret that as, I'm not good enough. Whereas in fact, it might just be a simple case of the market's down, or I have no idea, but companies randomly pulling the job. They sometimes advertise a job and then they pull it last minute. Whereas if you say, I'm going to measure my success based on the number of companies that I reach out to, the number of networking events that I go to, I'm going to try and test different CVs. I'm going to try and test different ways of connecting with people on LinkedIn, different personalized messages. Those things are within your control. And so therefore you can measure your success in the actions that you're taking. The results of those actions are feedback mechanisms. So I normally say, use them as feedback mechanisms, not success mechanisms. And that just simply means that you can detach yourself from the result. So your self-confidence is not tied to the result, but the result is feedback. What's going well? What could I be doing differently? And that way you get to still feel successful, but without tying it to the result.
Oh, I love that. I love that, because so many people get discouraged about failure. Obviously, failure and fear are big factors. And so you're already eliminating half the battle by taking away the fear. Once you've outlined all the things they can be doing, you create them a mindset of being proactive instead of passive, waiting, receptive. You're like, no, let's go out and do all these things. And that empowers people. So I love that. I think another thing that people often say to me is about pricing and paying for coaching, and they're concerned of sticker shock. I mean, it's one thing if your company is sponsoring it, but what if you are the CEO and you really need this coaching? Or what if you are in transition and between careers, so you're actively looking for a new position and you need to pay for coaching yourself. So how can people get past this mindset of investing in themselves? What do you tell people when they come and say, oh, but I can't afford it?
I think it's always, oh, it's so expensive. Well, expensive compared to what? I've got friends that are quite happy to drop $5,000 US on a handbag. But $5,000 in themselves, really? Am I going to do that? When that happens, this comes potentially back to the question of, are they coachable? If someone says to me, oh, well, that's really expensive, I can't afford it, one of the things that I normally ask myself is, how much faith do they have in their own ability to make this process work? Because the coaching process is generally quite similar. I mean, every coach has their own personality and their own spin on things, etc. But the coaching process is relatively similar. And as long as the people follow the coaching process, they'll get the results that they're looking for. Where people get stuck is, do I believe in my capacity to follow through on the actions that we've agreed? And if I don't, then I might start to question the value that I'm going to get out of this coaching process. But if I know with 100% certainty that whatever is discussed within the coaching, whatever actions are agreed, I know that I will follow through, then there's no question of value, because you know that you're going to get there in the end. And so, you know, when it all comes down to, you know, it's expensive, I can't afford it, it's really about, do you believe in your potential to achieve the results that you want to achieve through the coaching process? And also, if you don't invest in yourself, what's the consequences of that? What is it going to cost you if you don't have the coaching? And no word of a lie, 25% of the clients that I have right now came to me a year ago with the same problem. And at the time they said, I've got this problem, but, you know, coaching's really expensive. And, you know, we had conversations and they didn't go through with the coaching. Absolutely fine. A year later, they've come back to me and said, I've just wasted another year of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that anymore. It's time for change. And, you know, they've done whatever it is that they needed to do to get the money together to invest in coaching. One guy sold his, it was like a top of the range cycling bike that he'd had for years, you know, one of these proper professional things.
Oh, yeah. They can be quite pricey.
They can be really pricey, stupidly pricey in my opinion, but there you go. And he said, I've just sold that so that I can invest in myself. Now, obviously that wasn't just for the coaching. There were other things that he wanted to do. There was a qualification that he wanted to get, all of this other stuff, but he just decided to put personal investment as his number one priority, because he knew that if he invested in himself, he would make up the money later on. If he didn't invest in himself, he was going to increase the gap between him and his financial goals. And that was, and you know, that was the conclusion that he made. And I can say this for myself. When I took my coaching qualification, I'd been made redundant about a year before, and I'd been jobless for a year. And I had savings, and I had to make a decision. Do I invest in myself, mm-hmm. or do I just hold on to these savings for dear life? Yeah. And I decided to invest in myself. And that investment, I continued to invest in myself. I continued to invest in myself. And then I finally got a job. And when I got a job, I continued to invest in myself. And I quickly found out that once I started coaching, that money that I had invested in myself, I made back and more within 6 months. And now I'm earning twice as much, maybe even 2.5 times, maybe even 3 times as much as what I was earning in previous jobs, because I invested in myself.
I love it.
You know, and these are these are the stories that I share. And you have to be of a certain mindset. You just have to believe that you have the potential. You don't have to believe that you can 100% do it. You just have to believe that you have the potential. And if you can believe in that, then the coaching process will work for you, and you will find value in it. And you know, having those kind of conversations with people before they start can really help them decide for themselves whether or not they're ready for coaching. And that's pretty much the way that I would start the conversation.
That's wonderful, because I think cost is a lame excuse. And like you said, when we dig deeper, we find that people are spending money on all kinds of things they don't need. And also because they're stuck in their ways, or they're not getting what they really want, they may be actually using money or the things that they're buying with the money as some kind of comfort tool to compensate for that lack of success that they really want. And that's the saddest thing. Like you said, the person who stayed a year further in that situation is that once you're stuck, it's actually almost impossible to become unstuck on your own. So you already realize, if you reach out to a coach, usually that's already a good sign that you know that there's something that is just missing in your life, and it's not an easy fix, right? It's not like you just go out and learn a new skill, take an online course. That's not going to solve it. It's more, so that's what I wanted to ask you to wrap it up, is more like, what is in your mind coaching? How would you define it? It's not like a digital marketing course or a executive speaking competency, right? It's something much deeper. So is there a way to describe it?
You know, when someone asks me about coaching, I say that it is a process of self-discovery and self-realization. It's a lifelong journey. So coaching is hopefully the kickstart that you need. The idea is to give you the tools for you to be self-reliant so that you don't need a coach every week for the rest of your life. That's not the idea. The idea is to equip you to be self-coaching, and obviously having a coach there as and when you need them, because we all need support at some point. So having the security of knowing that there is someone who's got your back is always a great thing. I completely lost my train of thought.
No, it's self-realization.
Self-realization and self-discovery.
Do you think that it starts with self-awareness though? Because before you can change, you have to be made aware of the behaviors. So you may have some kind of idea about your behaviors, but working with a coach may pull them out. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. So when we're talking about the sort of self-discovery, part of that process is the self-awareness. It's definitely a case of, okay, so now I know what my values are, and I know what's meaningful to me, and I know what's purposeful to me. Why don't I have all that?
Right.
And, you know, and then it's like, well, how are you potentially contributing to your current situation through your behaviors, your thought processes, and your communication style? You know, how are you potentially holding yourself back? And a lot of the time people, I mean, most of us are asleep in terms of how we come across to others. And it's only when people start to give us feedback or opinions, etc., that we start to become much more aware of how we're coming across. So the coaching process absolutely helps to speed up that process. Coaching for me is about speeding up. You know, if you're doing it alone, you can still get to where you want to be. It just might take you 5-10 years. Whereas if you have a coach, it can help speed up that process 6 months, 1 year, which means that you can spend the rest of your life doing the things that you want to be doing, rather than climbing that sort of, you know, uphill battle that we all, you know, can go through when we're not living a life that's true to us.
Well, the sad part is that maybe you may have a little bit of self-awareness and not the full picture about the energy, the presence, the language, the little subtle utilization of the wording of how you communicate that's actually pulling you down. All those things that are pulling you down, you don't fully know, but because of the rejection, 5-10 years out, instead of moving slowly upward, you may actually get so frustrated by the setbacks that you move backwards. That's the saddest thing. So, you know, why risk it? Why? You may be at that tipping point where you kind of aren't moving very much forward, but the worst would be if you get discouraged and end up going way backward. And I've seen that happen. So it breaks my heart to see that. Yeah, no, this is very helpful for people to understand what to expect from coaching, and how coaching can really figure out how you are boycotting yourself. A lot of people that I talk to who are stuck in their lives tend to think that it's all external factors. Yeah, so when you speak with them and you say, so tell me your story, what's the first thing they say? Well, I lost my job, or I was made redundant, or I have a horrible boss, or I'm in a bad relationship. But we never want to take ownership that we have a choice, right? We have a choice to be in that job, or we could leave that partner. We don't have to stay in that situation, right? And so somebody to tell us that sometimes is so beneficial. And it's funny because these are mostly educated, pretty intelligent adults who somehow can't figure that out without a proper help. So that's the beauty of coaching that I've seen. Are there any words of advice that you would give to people who haven't worked with a coach yet? That's more my audience I'm targeting, are people who, you know, they're hesitant, they're on the fence, they're like, wow, I'm curious, and this sounds all good, but, you know, specific steps that I should take to find the right coach, or how to prepare for coaching, if there's such a thing.
Well, I think it's quite a difficult thing to say, because everyone's got their own individual goals for the coaching.
Yeah.
But I would say, you know, before you start coaching, have a think about what is it that you want to get out of the coaching? What are the results that you're looking for? And be honest with yourself. What have I been doing? What have I been prioritizing in the past that has led me to where I am today? And if I want to get a different result in my life, what do I need to be prioritizing differently?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, having sort of those kind of conversations with yourself can really help you get clarity around what you want to get out of the coaching process, and also help you to start to take accountability.
Mm-hmm.
One of the when I first started coaching, I was, when you're first starting to coach, your business is kind of in survival mode, and so you have this tendency to take on any client. And I remember when I first started coaching, there were a couple of people that came to me, and it was almost like they were expecting me to produce this magic pill, and it would just fix all of their problems, and I would be the one to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think when you're getting ready for coaching, get ready for the fact that your coach isn't going to change anything. What your coach is going to do is help you to understand what are the choices that you need to be making differently in order for you to be getting a different result in your life. And your coach is there to help you overcome those fears of change.
So it's accountability. It's an accountability factor. Yeah. It's not on the coach to come in and fix you, just like it's not on the boss, the bad boss, or the bad partner. You have to own it, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's, it's your choices. It is your choices. Your coach cannot get inside your mind, flick a switch. All of a sudden, you're the super confident person who's not not afraid of anything. It doesn't work like that. You have to say, okay, so I know that I'm going to have to take some actions, and I know that it's up to me to take those actions, and I'm accountable for that. So if I don't take those actions, I can't blame the coaching process. Mm-hmm. That's up to me. That's down to me. So the coach is there to give you all of the tools that you need in order for you to gain clarity on what are the actions, and also to help you overcome the fears of taking actions and creating change. But ultimately, the actual creation of change is with the individual. And as long as someone can go into the coaching process with that mindset, the coaching will work brilliantly for them.
I love it. Thank you so much. This is so helpful, and I'm sure many people will appreciate getting this valuable info, because I do believe that everyone could benefit from coaching. And I know that even coaches have coaches, correct?
I've had two coaches in my life. So when I was made redundant, I had a life coach, and now I have a business coach, because one of my areas of improvement, shall we say, is sales and marketing. I'm great with people. I'm great at coaching. I love training and teaching. Where I'm not so strong is sales and marketing.
I know you have a business coach, but I just wrote an article about this. I've been helping coaches with this. It seems to be a problem for certain coaches. You're so self-confident, but you want to help people so much that those things get a little bit sidelined. So
yeah, but also when I look back on my career, it's just never an area that I've developed skills in. Mm-hmm. So I was in recruitment, and recruitment is, a specific type of selling. It's, 100 cold calls a week type selling. And it was so out of my comfort zone. Like, it just did not come naturally to me at all. So I very much shied away from it. I left recruitment, and I focused on helping people rather than selling to people. I'm so blessed, and I'm touching wood here, that I've managed to create my business not through selling. I don't sell. Like, it's because it doesn't come naturally to me and everything else. But I've created it just by being very present, and by delivering value, and by helping where I can. And through that process, I've become visible. People know my name. And so, it's kind of worked for itself in that way.
Word of mouth and reputation, you've been able to bypass sales. And I think that's actually what the best sales tools are. So I'm sure your business coach will teach you little tactics, but in the end, it's about visibility, likability, and trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
All those things lead up to the sale, and a call to action. That's what your business coach will do.
Call to action.
I see coaches forget that little, you know, it's like the little dot on the end of a sentence, right? It's like you had this beautifully constructed sentence and the dot is missing. There's a little problem there. It's the call to action. But that's, you know, hopefully my video now will also give more visibility about you, because I think everyone should know about you, especially people who need executive coaching. And that will bring me to my last question is, do you work internationally, or can you work via Skype remotely with people, or are you just based locally in the...
No, about 40% of my clients are international. So I do Skype coaching.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, so that's there.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a global world. I mean, I've worked my entire career. I've worked with international teams. I don't think I've ever worked in a single job or project where at least partially people were in a different country or across the country. So that seems to be the new norm. Yeah.
It is. It absolutely is.
And it's fine. Sure. It's fine. You can get results. Absolutely. So,
is it my correct understanding that in America, Skype coaching is the norm?
I would actually agree with you, because you know, we're very much accustomed to video chat. It's been around for 20 some years, you know, and so all professionals at some point have had to do teleconferencing or calls, and we don't feel that that's a problem at all. And it also is very convenient, because think about it, if you're a busy executive and you're like, oh, on top of this, now I'm going to start going to a coach. It's just, you know, time is money. So to have to leave the office, commute through traffic, go up into some office building, park your car for $100 an hour in the downtown busy district at lunch rush hour, you know, doesn't sound very appealing to a busy executive. So
exactly.
To budget in that time and be efficient, Skype is definitely a preferred route.
It's interesting because in Dubai, face-to-face is the preferred.
Relationships are so much.
It's all about relationships. It's all about trust, and that face-to-face connection is so important. But for the international clients, obviously, that I have, Skype is.
I don't think for Americans it's that important. I hate to say this because I love meeting with people, and I do a lot of networking events, particularly for that reason. And I go to several international or national conferences for that reason. But at the same time, in my day by day, I can find the connection with people remotely. Maybe not everyone can, but I think it is an American thing that we mostly can. So
I find with the Skype sessions, they're really efficient. I have no idea. I don't know what the difference is, but I know that when I've got my international clients, it's like from the moment we clock in to the moment we clock out, it's super efficient. When I'm meeting someone for coffee, we sit there and we talk about how was your week and how are the kids, and there's that relationship building.
Yes.
But it just means that it's obviously the time that's being used for the actual coaching process is slightly reduced, because you've got that sort of relationship building.
We talked about that earlier with the differences between the Emirates and maybe the States, particularly. We talked about how Americans or international Europeans maybe come in and think they'll get business done quickly versus in the Emirates it takes longer, people want longer. So the same thing, those formalities are super important for that culture, whereas for American culture we just get down to business, and we might have we have other ways of doing it. We might have more of an off-site to build relationships. Americans are big on corporate retreats. They're big on going out for beer. I mean, in most of the companies I worked at, it's like we have a happy hour, and so there's ways of building those relationships, but usually we just come in and get right down to business.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's different. Thank you so much for all your valuable wisdom. At the end of this video, I'm going to tell people how to get in touch with you, because I definitely think they could all use your wisdom, whether they can hire you for coaching or for speaking or for training. there's so many ways that you could add value to people's lives. So thank you for doing what you do. It was great.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Absolute pleasure.